recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment.
Welcome to the Monday Night Messiahs, back in the saddle for you. April Fools, this is the WrestleFetish Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. This is your boy, the Darkitect, speaking. With me today, no Annie Cruz, our current champion. She's off doing defending championship stuff, training, I guess, for her WrestleMania picks. But, of course, we're excited to welcome back the doctor, Tyler Lemko. What's up, buddy?
You know, took some time off for a kayfabe injury and back ready to go. And I've been thinking about it. This just might be the best day ever.
It's possible. It's possible. I mean, it's hard to say because Josh is here. And Josh Martin, how you doing today, sir?
You know, I'm doing okay. Second best day ever.
I thought you forgot what you were saying for a second. We're going to go scooter off the camera for.
I should clarify that it's certainly not the best day in wrestling.
That's true. I don't know what you mean, Tyler. It's
well,
2 weeks. Go ahead.
I just mean it's been a bad week.
I don't know what you mean. It's 2 weeks out to WrestleMania, a little bit less now as we're recording. We got charades on Raw. We got dance competition, kind of. We got people kayfabe breaking the fourth wall and forgetting their lines. We got a terrible new championship in Japan. We got Impact Wrestling.
Boo.
We got AEW with no storylines. Well, there's storylines, I guess. Well, yeah. What's not to love about this week in wrestling?
I mean, any week where two 40-year-olds dress up like bunnies to do a reggaeton song that lasts 18 minutes, sign me up.
Exactly. Nothing to complain about this week. We should really just end the episode. Honestly, I'll be honest with you.
It was a pretty good week, in my opinion. Titus O'Neil didn't wrestle again. No Bo Dallas. Pretty good week, I'm going to be honest.
But, I mean, yeah.
Well,
give me, since you're so high on it, Josh, why don't you give me your highlight of the week?
You know, there was no explosion matches that didn't work. So that's a plus. I'm excited for NXT TakeOver.
Mm-hmm.
NXT this week wasn't the best. But, you know, I'm excited for Kushida and Pete Dunne. That's going to be a great match. I'm excited for it.
I can't believe you don't have what to say about Ali facing off against Drew McIntyre.
You know, he got rid of what carried him. So I no longer care about him because he's not part of Retribution anymore. Maybe he was
Have
never
the
part
other
of
members
Retribution.
shown up at all? Did I miss a moment where we got a T-bar sighting? They're all gone?
I think they're gone now, yeah.
I think Bo Dallas may have got a T-bar sighting at Craft Services.
Because, you know, that is just good storytelling. That is just how you get people over. You have them turn babyface on their overly demanding, overly critical, stable leader, and then you just don't have them show up after that. That is how you use a stable to get talent over so they can start earning money for your company because you're paying them a salary, so you hopefully want to get a return on your money, but this is just the way you do it. You're building anticipation is what you're doing, right?
You don't get it, Chris.
I don't.
The guys from Retribution, they kicked Mustafa Ali out, and now they're refocusing on shenanigans. Okay, they're going to focus on light switches. You know, the stuff that really made them who they were.
Yeah,
Yep.
chainsawing, wrestling ropes, Molotov cocktails.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I get it.
It's just a refocus. You have to understand, like, it's okay for a company, for a group of guys to refocus on what made them them.
I understand.
I would love a gimmick, a Fiend-like gimmick where Bo Dallas comes out from the middle of the ring and just like sucks in all kinds of mid-card job guys, and then he like takes them.
That's already Baron Corbin's gimmick. I don't know if you realize that or not, Tyler.
Yeah,
what
but
was
Baron
your- what
Corbin's
was
on
your highlight of the
SmackDown.
week then?
Oh, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. You can go ahead.
It's okay. What was your highlight of the week, Tyler?
Since I missed last week and I didn't particularly like anything this week, I'm gonna go back a week
No.
and hope no one said it. But it's also outside of wrestling. Did you guys talk about Stone Cold and Randy Orton's conversation?
No, we didn't.
Loved it. And my rose goes to Stone Cold Steve Austin, who's phenomenal at interviewing.
It really is.
Yeah.
Can we talk about?
It was like the Broken Skull sessions where Stone Cold interviews Randy Orton, and you can kind of tell Randy's had like, he starts pounding the shots and the beers, and then he starts opening up more and more, and he starts swearing a bit more, and he gets a bit loose. I like drunk Randy Orton.
Do you think that interview was better than the Twitter feud between Randy Orton and Soulja Boy?
I mean, we'll see the blow off at Mania, I guess.
My highlight of the week was the delightful viewing experience of wrestling on the Peacock Network, or app, I should say. I'm on a mission to watch every single WrestleMania on the way to the current WrestleMania next weekend, and I just love not being able to search properly for wrestlers that I'd like to see. I love how unorganized all of the programming is in the WWE section because it is a bunch of arbitrary uh, headings that they've decided on you might be interested in. There's no pay-per-view search function, documentary search function, by superstar search function. It's just, hey, here's a bunch of topics that we thought you might like, and so we've curated this for you, which is how I want to do, any viewing experience. I don't want to look for the things that I want to see. I want you to just tell me. That's what I want. Thank you, Peacock. It's been a pleasure so far having you host the WWE programming. All the people who could not pause or rewind during the last pay-per-view, I'm sure agree with me. I told you, I'm just only positives this week from the dark side. Only positive, and I absolutely love it. Oh, let me not be remiss and talk about the ads that show up in the middle of all pay-per-views. Hey, you want to see Rick Rude fucking battle the Ultimate Warrior for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 5? Hold on a second. We got to sell you some Tide. Thank you so much, because I had laundry to do, and I totally forgot that I needed to buy fucking laundry detergent. So thank you for that, Peacock. Again, been a delight.
I don't know why you're complaining, Chris. It's still more accessible. It's still Peacock is still way more accessible than New Japan World.
Well,
that's only because you're a racist and you don't like it when things aren't.
You can't find a goddamn thing on New Japan World. At least Peacock, you can maybe watch wrestling, or you may have clicked an episode of The Office. You don't know.
I like the surprises. That's what I said. I'm enjoying it. Can't you tell?
No, you sound like you're complaining.
Tyler, it looks like you're going to say something, I'll be honest.
Yeah, because I was wondering, so I'm in Canada, right? And I don't know if I can get Peacock yet, but I know that my WWE network stopped working. So I have this feeling that I'm just out of wrestling now.
Do you feel free? Do you feel a certain freedom with that?
There's a bit of weight off my shoulders. Yeah.
Right on, right on. Well, those are our highlights of the week. We do our weekly wrestling review on our Patreon, patreon.com/WrestleFetish. That's also where you can participate in the Fetish Fantasy League, where you get prizes at the end of the season. And we're going to end the season after this WrestleMania and give out our first winner, who it's looking like is Ryan H., one of our patrons who is just like running away with this prediction contest. Kudos to you, Ryan H., doing a great job. I am not doing a great job because, again, I generally pick with my heart, not with my head, which I'll probably do at WrestleMania also and be very, very disappointed. So if you want us to get our weekly reviews of AEW Dynamite, NXT, Raw, SmackDown, go there, become a patron. It's not expensive. It helps us do what we do every week. We really appreciate everybody who's already a patron. You're awesome. And yeah, get some bonus content. Get your shit in. And compete with us from time to time. You might win something cool. But that's not what we're going to do right now. We're going to get into our topic, which last week, it's shocking that you weren't here because we pretty much singled you out last week, Tyler, as the only pure baby face probably of the panel of hosts here on WrestleFetish. Do you agree with that assessment?
I do, but I also think it's going to make the turn that much sweeter.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Jim Cornette has said it many times, the hotter the baby face, the hotter the heel, and vice versa. And so when your NWO moment happens, you know.
Yeah. I'm gonna start painting my face like the Crow and sitting very far away from podcasts.
Or will he never turn like? Will it be like a John Cena moment where he just never turns heel?
I guess the audience is gonna have to keep tuning in.
There you go. That's how you tell long-term stories. But yeah, so we talked about baby faces last week. What makes a good baby face? Is the concept outdated? This modern context, you know, what are some great examples of it? Who are the best of all time? We were remiss in one baby face that we didn't talk about last week, who's been like, I don't think has ever worked heel, also has a very like a quality about him. I had picked Sting as my, I think, greatest baby face of all time because him in a heel context just doesn't ever really work necessarily. Josh, who did you say was your best baby face ever?
I believe it said Owen Hart or Dusty Rhodes.
I think Dusty Rhodes. You did Dusty Rhodes, absolutely. First of all, who would you say is your greatest baby face ever?
The first one that comes to mind is, Dick Blood, Ricky Steamboat.
See, this is why I'm the king at segues, because I didn't even know you were going to say that. And that was the guy I was talking about, how we were remiss in talking about great baby faces. The one guy that Ric Flair has been quoted as saying, the one wrestler that he thought might have been greater than himself, but he never worked heel, so he can't give him that distinction. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Dick Blood, go. Talk to me about Ricky Steamboat.
I mean, yeah, just one of the very, very few guys that I can think of. Maybe like Rey Mysterio might be the only other that comes to mind that was just always an over babyface and always good at it, never got stale, really. I mean, you could say what you want about Mysterio now, but yeah, that's just the first name that comes to mind when you say babyface, because there's some great wrestlers who have done both, but it's very rare that someone is just one. And Mr. Dick Blood for me. Is there a Mrs. Dick Blood?
I would imagine. I don't know if she took his first name as well, but I'm pretty sure that he's married. I think there was a wedding ring when I saw him at what is that fucking festival that happens before the AEW shows that Conrad does? Uh, but I got to meet him. He was very lovely. He was baby faced me in person. So yeah,
He's also one of the few guys from that era who's like seems to be physically fine.
right, right. Because some dudes are barely moving and look like they've been sleeping in a suitcase when they move around. And yeah, he seems pretty spry. He looks great. But you never really heard anything about Steamboat as far as like substance abuse problems or like fucking, the domestic abuse or any other like issues that happen to a lot of guys in the wrestling business. He seemed to keep it pretty clean. And there's not even like a whole lot of talk of him complaining when Vince McMahon made him dress up like an actual dragon and spit fucking fire for a while there in the early 90s, late 80s. So, yeah.
And you guys appreciate that, but you don't like it when Randy Orton does it or Alexa Bliss.
I didn't say I appreciate it. I said that I didn't hear talk of him complaining about it.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah,
you're right.
I can't think of an instance where I was really into someone spitting fire. Can you?
No, definitely not.
There is a new Mortal Kombat movie coming out, so maybe for that.
The only fire spitting I like is that John Cena album. Sorry.
Oh my god!
Interruption.
I forget sometimes that exists. Like, yeah, he had the rapper gimmick, but like he put out an album. Like that's where his current theme song comes from. That was like one of the singles, and then he was like on a like this is underground LA rapper Murs, and he was on his album. And like Cena actually was like rapping for real for a little while. And ironically enough, that's what got him over. Like let's never forget that that's what got him over. Prototype, ruthless aggression, challenging Kurt Angle. That's not what did it. Him, being the word life doctor of thugonomics is what got fucking Cena over. For all you assholes out there, get on him about that gimmick. No. That's what made it happen.
I wonder if like Vince fucking hates that. So they're bringing back Wipeout, and those commercials air during AEW all the time. So there's just John Cena during AEW.
Yeah.
Throughout the entire show, and I'm wondering if like Vince is like, fuck this shit.
I'm sure he's tried to figure out how to fucking block them from doing it, thinking that they're using his like trademarks or whatever. But I really don't know. I really don't know. But it seems like something Vince would do. That's for damn sure. But anyways, Vince. Well, now I'm gonna try to segue this actually. Okay. Vince McMahon would do some very annoying, petty activity that way, very heelish, and he's the greatest heel of all time, perhaps. Speaking of heels, that's going to be our topic today, in converse to last week. So, guys, little doctor, now that you're here and you're back for us, why don't you break down what it means to be a heel in pro wrestling?
There's a lot to it, I think. The psychology behind being a bad guy, and there's a lot of different ways you can be bad, both in wrestling and in real life. But in the context of wrestling, there's your cowards, there's your big monsters, there's your rich dudes. What are other heel prototypes?
That is true. Has there ever been a rich guy like who was like, oh no, this is a baby face? You think of me?
A rich guy baby face.
If you ask Vince, he's a rich guy baby face.
Yeah, Shane O'Mac.
I guess Shane could kind of fit that rich guy,
but he never worked the rich guy gimmick as a baby face.
Well, he had dollar signs in his WrestleMania jersey.
Yeah, and his song is literally money, money, money.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that I mean, yeah, the basic sort of standard definition of what it means to be a heel is to indeed be a bad guy. But I think that there's so much more. There's a lot of responsibility to being a heel. Like you've got to like you're I guess the whole thing about being an effective heel is not giving is keeping the fans from getting what they want. When you're, cheering for somebody and you want them to succeed, the heel is the person who gets in the way of that, keeps them from succeeding. Or if you want somebody to be the champion, they are the champion instead. They don't praise the audience. They shit on the audience. They make fun of people. They make you feel bad. Um, I mean, I think that's essentially the essence of what being a heel is. Can you think of anything extra to add on to that, like Josh, Tyler?
Well, I think like you said it well, like wrestling or good wrestling is a dance between heels and faces, and the intensity and length of the dance matters in terms of is this good. And a lot of wrestling today is they either dance for way too long or for one night, and that's not enough. But yeah, it should be the heel keeping the fans from getting what they want just enough to hit that sweet spot where you give them what they want and it feels cathartic and it's great, and that's why we love wrestling.
And also, like a person can be as great as a face as possible if the heel isn't good. The face doesn't shine, and vice versa. If the heel can be great, and if the face isn't great, no one gives a fuck about the heel. So I think it's a weird a heel's a really good foil for that face, and it's really needed. Both they need each other completely,
And it's such a nuanced thing where it's like, especially I think in modern wrestling, where back in the day it was like, well, heels cheat. That's what it is, But it's like good guys cheat now. You know what I mean? The New Day cheats. Fucking John Moxley cheats. Like a bunch of people cheat. But like, there's such a nuanced, distinct way to, I think, wrestle as a heel, where I think that like Neville has really nailed it, where it's like, or excuse me, the Bastard Pack, where all his babyface work is super high flying and super energetic, and you see these moves, all this athleticism that you don't normally get. And then when he's a heel, like he even stops himself from walking up to the top rope to pose. Like he starts to, and then he looks around and he's like, "No, fuck that." And then it's a lot of like grounded moves and a lot of like holds and submissions and things like that. Can you think of any instances of heel wrestlers where that wasn't the case, where they were maybe like big high flyers and did all these like high spots, but they still like were very matter of fact heel?
It's tough because like I I'm sure there's plenty of wrestlers who were still high flyers as heels, but I'm trying to think if any did it well that still wrestled as heels well. I think, did Finn Balor change his style much? He still does the like running drop kicks and the sling blade and all that.
No, I think Finn Balor's a great modern example. I think that, I mean, he hasn't done, I get it. He was a heel when he first returned to NXT, but it doesn't feel like he's done a lot of pure heel work since being in WWE. Prince Devitt in New Japan, absolutely. And but I think the reason it really kind of worked for him as a heel there was the inception of Bullet Club was all about them using United States tactics in New Japan, which was a very like it was all about tradition, and they didn't interfere in matches. They didn't attack people backstage. They didn't, do all that stuff. They didn't do the numbers game thing like the NWO or DX or the Horsemen. That just wasn't a thing in New Japan. And Bullet Club brought all that to New Japan. So Prince Devitt could still wrestle with that sort of high flying style and still be super over as a heel.
Was it? I get. Would you consider the Great Muta as a high flyer as a heel?
Somewhat, absolutely.
Because
Yeah, sorry, go.
him, and I also view maybe X Pac under D-Generation X Pac as kind of high flying.
I'd say a great classic example, fresh in my mind because I just watched WrestleMania 5, Randy Savage. You know what I mean? He was considered a high flyer of his day, and he was always coming off the top with double axe handles. His finish was the flying elbow, and he was always flying around the ring. So it's like you could definitely do it. I think I think the consistent thing that has to be there is that it has to look punishing, and not that you're showing off your athleticism necessarily.
You know who I think is a great high flying heel, especially in the early WCW days, is Eddie Guerrero.
Oh yeah, great pull, great pull. But see, that's another example of like everything Eddie did looked like like it was like meaningful and had a like it actually fucking hurt. It wasn't like Ricochet and Will Ospreay who do these things where it's like, wow, that was really cool, but that probably didn't hurt at all. You know what I mean? Like, and required so much cooperation from the other person that you're wrestling with for those things to be pulled off. So it's like I feel like as long as it looks painful and intentional, you can still be a pretty much high flying heel. Absolutely. Um, Again, well, let me ask you, aside from high flying heels, who would you say all time and currently are the most effective heels as far as for what they do for the wrestling product?
Um, I'll
Maybe
start.
not top five. Did I say top five?
No.
Okay, good. Glad, because I didn't mean to say that.
I'll start with I love MJF's heel work. I think he's the epitome of like the pompous piece of shit that you want to root against, and he's excellent at it. In terms of in-ring work, when it comes to wrestling like a heel, I don't know if he's number one. I really love Walter. I just don't know if I would call him like a classic heel. He wrestles heel, but he's kind of lovable.
Well, you love him because he's awesome. It's not like he's not like adorable.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of adorable.
He's kind of he if he comes, if I see him in front of me, I'm definitely attempting to hug him. I'm
Yeah,
not
like,
attempting to run from him at all. I want a bear hug.
and also a guy with that build, just committing to tiny trunks, we stand.
That's true, absolutely. What about you, Josh? Who's a great current effective heel?
Now that Retribution's done.
Yeah.
I think you kind of have to go with maybe not current, like you want like current, like right now.
Current.
Okay. Because I was gonna say Seth Rollins is a great, but no one gives a fuck what he's doing currently. But him
But
as
I mean,
a heel,
that still counts as current. That's just
okay.
not from a bygone era of wrestling.
Like Seth Rollins is great. What Roman Reigns is doing right now is fucking. It's some of the best heel work I've seen in forever. And do you consider?
Do you prefer that kind of heel where it's like what I love about Roman is that he started out as like a more badass heel, but is becoming more chicken shit as time goes on, and he's realizing that other wrestlers are better than him, and I love that nuance to the character. Go ahead.
Do you love that? Because I find I was really into like tribal chief, head of the table Roman Reigns, and now that he's become a bit more like chicken shit heel, I'm kind of losing interest in him a bit. I like, it's so rare that a heel is actually awesome too and not just full of shit.
I like it because it's a welcome change from Lesnar. Lesnar's the heel, but he can kick everyone's ass, and it's just like, I don't need that again. You know what I mean? I don't need
And
to.
also that's like the version of that exact view is what we had Roman Reigns as a face, and we hated like he never lost. He always won, and the evolution where you can see cracks where fucking Roman Reigns, there's a possibility of him actually losing, even and he could still stay as a heel. He doesn't need to be apologetic for anything he said or done. I'm enjoying that, you know.
I think you nailed it just now, Josh. Seeing the cracks in the armor. Like, yes, he is impressive and he can still be very effective in the ring and do damage. But like I said, him seeing that, oh shit, maybe Daniel Bryan is actually a little better than me. Oh, Kevin Owens actually can beat me. Like, those little things that are making him more and more insecure about being the champion. I think that's a better story told because it's not abrupt. Like, I remember NWO Hogan, and it was just like, wait a minute, you were Hulkamania rules, three moves of doom guy your whole career. Now that you have a painted in beard, you're scared of everybody? Like, what the fuck is that? You know what I mean? Like, I never understood that about Hollywood Hogan. Like, he was literally terrified of every babyface from that point on. And it was like, I don't get that.
And it's true if you really think about it in like a psychological perspective. I guess like Scott Hall and Kevin Nash came in and just convinced Hulk Hogan to be a completely different person. And that's it.
Yeah, right.
But
Like
for a guy who, with the infinite horrible things you could say about Hulk Hogan, a great babyface and a great heel in terms of the psychology, like the mentality of the character, really good at it.
he's also really good at eating like a pig, apparently.
Oh yeah, he's a horrible guy.
But like I say, Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. Honestly, I think the best heel right now has to be Adam Cole, in my opinion. Adam Cole has been a great fucking heel for a long time. Even when he was a face, you're like, is he really a face or is he kind of? It's like a heelish baby face, even for a period. So Adam Cole's up there in current heels.
But is he better than Pat McAfee?
Pat McAfee's not a heel though.
When they faced off, he was.
Yeah, certainly he was. That was going to be my next question. So how guys like Adam Cole, MJF, or women like Britt Baker, like how would you say what makes an effective heel in modern wrestling? Like back in the day, like I feel like we've already kind of talked about it. You cheated, you robbed the fans of what they wanted. But that was in a time where people weren't certain of it being a work. Now, where you got the smart fans who cheer for heels and things like that, but you got guys like MJF who can get legit heat and get the fans to want to see them get their ass kicked. How do you do that nowadays? Like, what's the secret sauce to that?
I think you got to just make it like as real as possible and try and insult people and try and be mean or rude to people. Like my favorite example of heel work in the last decade was I'm blanking on who she was facing, but it was Shayna Baszler in NXT. And I think she was facing Dakota Kai and tapped her out, and then like a young girl in the front row was I think it was Dakota Kai, was dressed like Dakota Kai and was yelling at Shayna Baszler. And Shayna Baszler looks at this small child and says, "You did this," and gets back in the ring and chokes her out again. That's great heel work. Like you're going to the show, this kid's maybe scarred for life, but that's the point.
And there's like a very big change of what made people more what made people a heel. Like back in the day, like Hogan days, since it was like a lot of just families going, so like you could be like the Mr. Steal Your Girl kind of guy and be a heel with just that persona. And now it's just a bunch of single dudes who will never have girlfriends. So you have to do what like Chris Jericho did at the beginning of AEW, where you just calls people like stupid marks and just fucking really just shit on the inside baseball of wrestling almost.
How do you guys feel about like the X-Pac heat, the Baron Corbin heat of the guys who don't necessarily have wrestling heat but are genuinely hated, and therefore you kind of can't disagree that they're good heels, even though no one likes it?
Well, that's just it, because you both kind of touched on it. The effective modern heel has to blend reality with the fantasy. That's why I think current Seth Rollins doesn't work, because there's too much reality of his relationship with Becky Lynch out there. And nobody wants to boo Becky Lynch. So since she just had a fucking baby, it's like, people really are endeared to her.
You
So
never booed a woman with a baby?
no, 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 no. Well,
You should try it once. It's kind of fun.
So it's kind of like, so Seth's current character doesn't really work, because it's like, yeah, why would she be with this dude? But initial Seth Rollins heel turn from a couple years ago, where it was like he would make comments on the internet, and like people were just like, this dude fucking sucks in real life. Like he is not cool. He is not fun. He's always defending WWE and being a fucking simp for the product and being a mark for himself and all this stuff. And then when they use that to turn him heel, which led to the Messiah character, it was like, this works. With guys like Baron Corbin, it's like he don't even have a storyline. You know what I mean? He's just around. He's just around. He sucks up TV time. He's just there. And it's like, get away from my screen. Get away from my screen, because there's nothing for me to invest in one way or the other. I just don't like you. Period.
Yeah, there's a difference between like, oh, I hate that guy and I want to see him lose, and oh, I hate that guy, I'm changing the channel.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what I mean. Those are the guys that have legit heat that they don't give stories to. You know what I mean? Reason Roman's turn works right now. We're booing him for a very specific reason. And now they've flipped that reason on its head, inserted him into a compelling story. Now it all works. And we love it. You can't, like, I don't know where this Hurt Business story is going with Baron Corbin. I don't have any faith that it's going to a place that I'm going to be satisfied with. The only thing I literally thought about this last night. The only way, and we'll talk about this in the Patreon, but I'll talk about it here for a second. The only way that this could end satisfying for me is if it's a work to have Drew think that there isn't a Hurt Business anymore, and they work to get Lashley the win, and then they beat the shit out of Baron Corbin. And like, you were just a puppet in this whole elaborate scheme. I know WWE doesn't think like that in any nuanced way, so that's not happening. So I don't know.
Yeah, I literally wrote down while watching, you know what the championship match at WrestleMania really needed? Baron Corbin.
Dude.
What's the point of breaking up? Yeah.
I have so many thoughts on it, and then we'll talk about it on Patreon, but www.patreon.com/WrestleFetish if you want to hear those thoughts. But
although we are in a very heel market right now with Bobby Lashley champion, Roman Reigns champion, Kenny Omega champion. No clue who's Impact champion, but I'm gonna guess. Oh, right. So he's a face, and New Japan's a face.
And I guess would you consider Finn Balor now a heel? Or is he kind of like in between right now?
Here's why I told you I'm not that excited about that feud. A, because I don't think Cross has done enough to make me that excited, and then B, they're both babyface tweeners. It's like
No,
there's
Kevin
no
Cross is
heel
the more.
dynamic.
Kevin Cross is definitely a heel, in my opinion.
What do you do that's so fiendish, that's so
Yeah.
dastardly that makes him a heel?
He's got like Lance Archer energy.
Yeah.
He's big and he's angry, but I don't know if he's
And
good
he's
at
Big,
Enough
angry,
heel
and he
to
has a
resolve.
girl that you wish was your girl.
Yeah, or Jake Roberts, conversely.
So what do you guys? Who would you say is the greatest all-time heel on your personal list?
Josh, you go first.
There's just so many. You know, anyone who was with Mr. Fuji was fucking great. Fucking
Anyone?
most of the because most of the people with Mr. Fuji end up being heels, so most of them were fucking great. You know, like Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik is fucking
Well, okay. What
up
is your
there.
favorite heel? Before we get into all-time favorite, what's your favorite type of heel? Would you say uh, fucking fucking coward heel? Would you say badass heel? Would you say anti-American heel? Or would you say Magneto heel? And what I mean by that is the guy who actually has a point, but the way he's going about it is completely wrong.
I'm going to add to that list and say my favorite is the psychopath heel. I'm talking like the Viper legend killer, Randy Orton, or when
Nails.
Who?
Nails.
Yeah, sure, Nails.
Well,
Convicted.
do you include?
Nails for a second, just because that is one of my favorite backstage stories of all time. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
I
Josh,
don't think so.
you gotta read up on Nails or listen to a podcast. This guy, I mean, he mastered being a heel in real fucking life. Feels so good. This fucking guy got into a dispute with Vince McMahon over money, and I guess assaults Vince in his office. It's just the two of them in there. And then when Pat Patterson and all the guys finally got into the office to break up the fight, Nails was heard yelling, "He grabbed my dick! He grabbed my dick! He wouldn't let go of my dick!" And then he sued Vince McMahon for sexual assault. Fucking Chef's. I've been saying Jeff's kiss because of Kevin Smith. Chef's kiss. I mean, that's just fucking fiendishly evil, and I fucking am here for it.
That's all. If I get in a fight with anyone, I'm immediately going to grabbing dick. Okay, I'm just hoping their dick's big because I'm probably going to grab low, and I don't want to grab too low because if you grab too low, the surprise is no longer there. They know you're going after dick. So
you don't want to grab too high and then you're too close.
Yeah. So yeah, what is your favorite type of heel, guys?
I like the psychopaths, the Randy Ortons. I loved when Ciampa was a heel in recent history, like 2 years ago. I like those. Triple H was great at it. Those real sickos.
Do you consider New Jack as the psycho heel?
Definitely a different type, but I do love
different type. Okay.
That's another, I think, characteristic of a great heel. You need, I feel like, that signature promo that you cut that everybody remembers and is just like, oh, that motherfucker, like you mentioned New Jack, to literally congratulate O.J. Simpson because now there's 2 less white people to worry about. To say that as a promo in '96 when it happened, I mean, just incredible. Just fucking incredible. And then Smoky Mountain Wrestling, of all places, to do it?
In Tennessee. How has West Side Gun not used that yet?
Oh, the congratulations. I don't think he really wants to be a heel. He wants people to buy his clothes. But yeah, what's your favorite type of heel, Josh?
Honestly, I like the heel that doesn't mind cheating, that enjoys cheating to win. Because like I remember loving Eddie Guerrero because of like that, especially during that lie, cheat, steal period. I fucking loved him so much, and that was my kind of fucking heel.
Yeah, like a smart heel. It's gonna just like outthink the other guy and bend the rules and find loopholes and this and that. I like that
Like
because
has no like the heels that have no problem accidentally knocking out the ref just so he can use a chair or a table or whatever the fuck.
The shortcut heel for sure. That's probably
I view the shortcut as the cheating type heel because at the end of the day, it matters. Winning is all that matters, and it doesn't matter how you get to it. You get there.
And I think that's how Triple H started. That was the whole thing about being the game, the cerebral assassin. I'm always going to outthink you. But then that turned into the badass heel that just, yeah, I'm devious and all this, but I'll beat you clean, 1, 2, 3 in the middle. You know, the famous example, of course, being with Booker T, telling him that people like you don't become the world champion. Very racially implied what he's talking about. A lot of just weird shit like that, and then proceeds to beat him cleanly, 1, 2, 3 in the middle, after taking like 30 seconds after the pedigree to crawl over. So meaning the move was so devastating that he still couldn't get up after. Stuff like that, I just despise. I mean, Brock Lesnar, I think it works just because he's so grounded in reality as being a devastating prize fighter. But when you create that for a wrestler, it's never been my favorite thing.
There's like a moment where a person gets too much muscle, where you can't be that psychological like I'm gonna outsmart you heel anymore, you know. And they got to a point where Triple H got fucking massive, and you're like, I can't associate you with being a smart guy anymore. Now it's all power now.
Yeah, you're just Scott Steiner now.
Yeah, exactly.
I would go with Scott Steiner as a psychopath heel simply because of his promos. Absolutely because of his promos.
Yeah, but definitely a psychopath, but not in the wrestling sense, just a general psychopath.
And that would be my favorite too. I agree with Josh. I like the win at all costs, whatever shortcut I got to take. I mean, that was pretty much what Bobby Heenan was. He was a mix between that and a chicken shit.
My favorite was when Eddie would when the ref's back is turned, he'd throw the chair at his opponent and then lay down. Love that. When you can think of new creative ways to cheat to win, that makes such a good heel, because there's really it's like a testament to these guys. They're phenomenal athletes, but they're also creatives.
Yep.
Creative stuff they come up with, and that makes a great heel performance.
I thought the New Day was really great at it when they were heels. They always found a way, some twist of an old classic to get the upper hand. I like the they use this even as babyface, but the old Killer Bees, when they had the Killer Bee mask that they would put on, and then you didn't know which one was the legal one that was in the ring at the time, and then they pick up wins that way, and then they unmask, and you realize that the wrong Killer Bee was in the ring. Or say what?
And the Bella Twins did that.
Yeah, the little twin magic. Always love stuff like that. I've always been more, I think, in the heel tag teams than I ever was just the singular heel, except for Rick Rude, probably. Rick Rude is no doubt probably my all-time favorite heel, because he looked like he could fuck your shit up because he was so damn in shape. He had the promo. He was arrogant. He was chicken shit when he needed to be. He cheated. And then, come on, he's got fucking Bobby Heenan in his corner. What else do you need? Who would you say is your all time? Now that you had time to think about it.
My personal, just off the top of my head, my personal favorite heel angle, the one that stands out most, might be Andy Kaufman. I find because there's been a lot of celebrities through the years, he was like the first legit one, I think, that really worked into the angle and was phenomenal at it. What a good piece of shit. And really got over, like, not that he needed it, but like, it wasn't just Jerry Lawler's popularity. It was actually heel heat from a non-wrestler.
Lawler didn't get involved till much later in the situation.
Yeah. That, to me, that's the one that stands out as like, oh, this guy came in from not being a wrestler and nailed it.
Also, unsung hero of that situation. This is so funny how this is coming together. Shit, I just recently watched. Jimmy Hart was heavily involved in that Andy Kaufman, Jerry Lawler feud to the point where he was kind of a stand-in in case Kaufman didn't show up. Like he was going to be the guy to take the bumps from Lawler. But he doesn't really get talked about much. But he was there in Memphis during the time. He was the first person that Jimmy Hart ever managed was Jerry the King Lawler in Memphis. And then they had an ongoing feud when he turns on the King. So, yeah, shout out to Jimmy Hart, another great heel manager who I don't think gets as much credit as he deserves because he didn't have much to do when he finally made the move to WWF. And then his later association with Hulk Hogan was whatever. But
wasn't he the first from that whole Memphis territory to go to WWF and then brought a bunch of guys over? He was like the bridge, I think, to Savage and a whole slew of them.
Yeah, I think he was definitely part of that great migration of wrestlers coming over that wasn't just the big AWA fucking talent raid and then the later Crockett guys who weren't getting their contracts renewed and stuff like that. But so Rick Rude for me, Andy Kaufman for you, Josh. You can't pick yourself.
I'm gonna be the complicated guy because female heels, Sherry Martel is the greatest female heel. Second, very close second, Karma. Karma scared the fuck out of me.
Like Awesome Kong, Karma?
Like fat black chick, yeah.
Oh my God.
She scared the fuck out of me. It's weird for men. Bobby the Brain Heenan kind of is the ultimate heel, just because he was as a announcer, manager, and a wrestler. He was a heel, but I don't care about him as a wrestler, so I can't put him at the top. For me, it really has to be Jake the Snake Roberts. For me, that's when Snake bit Macho Man. Still fucking haunts me, and it's like that was such a fucking crazy moment.
Yeah,
that it affected me for a long time.
Well, I mean, shit. As extreme it is to have a snake bite someone, cutting a promo about like, yo, first of all, slapping Elizabeth, and then cutting a promo about how much he enjoyed it, almost to a sexual degree and then looking into the camera and being like, Randy, let me touch her again. I just want to feel her again. Yeah, I mean, it was just like, yo, this fucking dude is out of his fucking mind. Like, and you just were desperate to see Macho Man get his revenge. Like, that's just solid work right there.
Yeah, you think there would be like an uproar in the blogs and social media sphere if that happened today?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure it'll get censored from Peacock really soon. I mean, we're already losing. I think we lost the DX makes fun of the Nation of Domination. We lost half black Roddy Piper. We lost. I'm sure some Goldust stuff is gone. I'm sure every hot lesbian action thing from that. I'm
A
just
girl walking around the ring on all fours probably got cut.
probably that's gonna happen. I don't know if the Kiss My Ass Club is gonna survive. I don't know if the Attitude Era in general is gonna be much available on Peacock. ECW probably not gonna make it for the most part. It's gonna be an interesting thing once they're done going through all that footage.
And I can't believe, like, I say Jada Snake. I can't believe, like, Piper is up fucking there. I can't believe I completely forgot about Piper.
And also, you mentioned Bobby Heenan, but we got to bring up Jim Cornette. Like, who else can get heat like Cornette?
He's still getting it. Karma. These fucking idiots. I don't deny that he probably does think what he says most of the time. Like has some sort of belief in modern wrestling about ways, but at the end of the day, if you can't see that he's planned this shit up to get heat and to get you people to listen to his podcast, it's like, come on, this is what he's done his entire career. I might say wrestling blasphemy right now, and I don't see much in the Midnight Express when I go and watch those old matches. People fucking love the Midnight Express. The Rock loves the Midnight Express. Steve Austin loves the Midnight Express. So many wrestling connoisseurs love the Midnight Express. I don't know what it is about those two guys, Stan Lane and Dennis Condrey, and then the later one with Bobby and Stan. But
Yes.
with Cornette's work, you're like, oh yeah, Cornette's fucking great. He's fucking amazing.
The Midnight Express is the Austin Aries of that time. You're like, I don't know what the fuck you do, but I don't like anything you do. And all the guys are like, these guys are great. It's like, no, he's not.
And also, they had really good foils. I mean, the Rock and Roll were great baby faces. Fucking the Road Warriors were great baby faces. You know, they had really great people to play off of. You know, I see the Freebirds as a much better heel team than the Midnight Express from back in the day. But you know, what do I know?
I have a question for you guys. Like, people always view as Ric Flair as the ultimate heel. What's the reason why you think the three of us didn't pick him as the greatest heel?
Just because it's played out to say Ric Flair, like that was really all it was for me.
And
For
also,
me, it's
he's so lovable now. Like every wrestling fan loves Ric Flair. So when you think about Ric Flair, you think legend more than heel or face, I think.
Yeah.
for me, I view him as a heel in promo only. Wrestling, I didn't view him as a heel in his wrestling at all. It
But
was
also,
a promo exclusive at heel work, you know?
even that was early on, because by the time I got into wrestling in his like in mid to late 90s WCW days, he was a tweener at most, but probably a face because he was always against NWO. And then Evolution, he was a heel, but any other point in WWE, he was kind of just like lovable old Ric Flair. The whole like second half of his career was kind of a baby face.
Yeah, I mean, look, WrestleMania 8 era, 92 Flair, heel work, great. Obviously, the stuff with Dusty and the early Horseman incarnation and stuff like that, because it's all contextual. It's like, yeah, Dusty Rhodes, the common man, the everyday man, the working man versus the fucking rich silver spoon in his mouth, limousines and women, and then the fucker always finds some way to barely eke out a win, even though he got his ass whooped the entire match. Yeah, that's great heel stuff. But I think what you said, the context for Ric Flair has changed tremendously, where it's like, we fucking love the Nature Boy now. You know what I mean? We're just always hoping that we get another year with him not fucking deceased. So, you know, he doesn't necessarily come up as when you think of like great heels immediately until, you know, you have to make the list. And yeah, he's got to be up there. But then to my point, I just think we could have done better than just flat out say Ric Flair. Yeah, Ric Flair, of course, great.
Yeah, I was trying to be like a hipster going with Andy Kaufman.
Who do you think is a bigger heel in real life outside of wrestling? Hogan or Marty Jannetty?
Marty Jannetty is an anti-hero.
Yeah. Marty Jannetty is just, he's just like, God. He's like the guy from My Name's Earl, like where it's just like, he's just kind of a shitty dude who karma keeps kicking in the ball sack. You know what I mean?
Like, Hogan said the N-word. Marty Jannetty may have committed an actual hate crime.
But he relented and said that wasn't true, and for some reason I believe him. Hogan is Ric Flair in real life. He's a piece of shit who is rich, to be honest. from being recorded fucking his best friend's wife, and then saying some racist shit.
You're a little biased, Chris, because I feel like you think Jannetty saying all this just because you're a huge HBK fan, and you're like, oh, he said all that because he got kicked through the window.
I mean, that's my fan fiction of it. He got kicked through the window, and it fucked his brain chemistry up to the point where he doesn't know if he's coming or going. He got CTE, man. He don't know what the fuck he's saying. He wants to fuck his niece. Like, he's fucking crazy. He's out of his mind.
At least he asked. He asked if it was okay.
He did.
I'm gonna throw Jimmy Snuka as the best heel in real life just because he killed someone.
I was waiting for someone to bring up Benoit.
Benoit.
Oh fuck, Benoit's way bigger than Snuka.
I mean, look. Ultimately, the greatest heel of all time in wrestling is the WWE creative team. I mean, you want to talk about someone who's taken away what the fans wanted more, played with our emotions, wasted our time, kicked us in the balls, and then took our money? WWE creative team all day. Greatest heel, period.
I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
I know I, give or take, know how you feel about champion Bobby Lashley as a heel, about champion Roman Reigns as a heel. Do you guys like champion Kenny Omega heel?
No.
Silly. Too silly for me.
It's a little silly. It kind of cheapens the whole thing, how silly it is.
And he hasn't done anything that, like, I'm like, oh, you bastard. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's like he's playing heel. He's not, like, necessarily a bad dude. Yeah, the Good Brothers interfere on his behalf, and they got to think of something for him, like, really do something really shitty. You know what I mean?
He's also kind of doing the Playboy guy thing, but, like, not really. It's like 30%.
And it's also like the names of its moves are like video game related. The entire cleaner gimmick was him as a face, and it's hard to associate all that stuff as a heel. It's almost kind of need to be like a Finn Balor, where like the moveset's kind of completely changed, or Pac as well. The moves have changed.
Wasn't the cleaner him as a heel? But
Cleaner started as a heel and then it evolved. But the
problem
is that was the whole thing. He was the big thing that made him like stand out as a heel was that he betrayed AJ Styles and took over Bullet Club.
Right.
Then it evolved from there, and then Bullet Club stopped sort of being heels and they were faces and they were popular and this, that, and the other. But like up to this point in AEW, other than beating Moxley, who was a face, and becoming now cocky and arrogant, what has he really done that's that bad necessarily? Now, what I liked what they're doing initially, where it was like, oh, he's going to be this sort of pretentious heel Yes, but now it's too over the top to even be pretentious. It's just like there's no nuance to it. He's just like it's too wacky. It's too zany.
Yeah, and also like you said, he did all of that heel stuff in New Japan, but people like me, and I think there's a lot of them, didn't see that, and they never so much as told us that. They never showed us that. They just expected us to know that one day when all of a sudden there's girls with brooms and he's heel.
Yeah.
There was no reason for him to turn heel. There was no explanation. He just was one day.
Who do you guys say is your most underrated heel work wrestler?
Ooh,
I have two that come to mind.
you start.
You start.
I'll say my first one, Jerry Lawler. I think that Jerry Lawler, I hated him during his Bret Hart feud. And babyface Bret Hart doesn't have that dynamic promo skill to make me care that much about him. At the time, he was just such a good wrestler. We all loved him so much, in my opinion. And then the pink and black thing, and you give the glasses to the kid, and you're like, oh, he's a good guy. But Lawler carried that whole situation. You know what I mean? And he just great mic work, great at riling up the fans. When he went over to ECW and did that whole ECW versus WWF feud, he was great. There's some great shit of him from Memphis when he would switch heel. I just think that he was always super. Either way he went, Lawler could be super engaging. But yeah, definitely underrated. People do not talk about his heel work as much. And during that period of WWF that was so bad, he was probably the most effective heel in the company.
You're not wrong, but also everything he's done since just makes me incapable of enjoying it. Because to me, Jerry Lawler he's in a class above Baron Corbin and X-Pac. I can't stand when Jerry Lawler's on TV.
Oh man. Well, I think it's jumped the shark for sure. It's like he's not what he once was on the microphone to be still Monday Night Raw's announcer. It just seems
But like
ridiculous.
even watching old Raws, I used to love Jerry the King, and rewatching, it's like I don't know if it like maybe just because I matured a lot, but it doesn't have the same thing. It's like, oh, you're just being a creep most of the time.
Yeah, I think the only thing in the world sadder than Jerry Lawler sitting at home writing all those horrible one-liners is Jerry Lawler paying someone else to do it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think that it's probably passed him by at this point, but that's why my context was more when he was still a really active wrestler and could still stir up really legit heat. Like he was neck and neck with the greats when he was really dialed in. I think at the time for sure. Who do you guys? I have another one, but who do you guys think also was underrated?
Well, finish off your.
Go ahead, say your second one, Chris.
I gave you one.
Give us two.
All right.
Because I have two. I have two as well. I can give you. We can all go through one and then go
there you
through
go.
our
Let's
second
go.
one.
Do a snake draft.
All right, then I'll do this. I think one of the most overrated heels is Kane.
Underrated?
I think underrated. I don't think Kane gets the appreciation he does for his heel work from when he first showed up in the company as the Big Red Machine. He was like that big dominant heel that didn't do much talking, but he was mostly because he had that voice modulator. Yeah, but I don't think people respect him as what he was when he first showed up at all.
I think that's because it wasn't necessary. Like, great wrestler in the ring, but I don't think Glenn Jacobs did much to get that gimmick over. It was a great gimmick. And I think that's why it kind of doesn't really get mentioned at the top of the
It was
list.
a great gimmick, great story, and also if you do the sum total of what Kane amounted to, he was the Undertaker's bitch. I don't know if he has any pay-per-view wins over the Undertaker. He might have one. I think like maybe that Buried Alive match or something like that.
Where like
But
4 people involved. Yeah.
right, it's like I think the biggest mistake they made with Kane was having him lose that actual contest with the Undertaker. Kane should have won at WrestleMania 14. Yeah, we wouldn't have had the streak, but like he could have been so much more effective as a monster because it was just like, okay, leading up to this, the whole thing is he's going to take on the Undertaker and then he loses and then he loses again and then he loses again and he loses again. It's just like, imagine if he would have went over Undertaker in their first encounter and then what you had in your hands there. Because like Kane won the fucking WWF title at one point. You know what I mean? No one remembers that. No, you can't even think of him as a former world champion. And it's because I think the effectiveness of him as a monster, they almost killed almost immediately. But not his fault, because he was great.
Which AEW kind of just did with Pinnacle a week after introducing them. We'll get to that on Patreon.
Patreon.com/WrestleFetish.
All right, so my first one. I
Jeff
think, what's that?
It's a Jeff Jarrett.
I think like everyone appreciates him, but he never really gets mentioned at the top of the list, and he's got to be in the conversation. He had some, I'll say his name, Scott Hall, had some great heel years, some not so great years, but the great years were really, really, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, he had a huge impact on wrestling in the heel work that he did. And it kind of saved a whole promotion. And yeah, I think Scott Hall, his whole career gets overlooked, but that's my first one.
And he did a really great heel work in 2 different companies. Him as Razor Ramon in WWE was fucking great, and him as just Scott Hall, I think NWO would have not even been close to the same without him. Because I don't think Kevin Nash has the persona to be the leader like Scott Hall was the mouthpiece.
And you know, he literally got over the persona, the bad guy. So argue with that.
My other one, for reasons very similar to Ric Flair, is Mick Foley. I think Mick Foley was a fantastic heel. Fantastic. Pick a gimmick. Mankind, Cactus Jack, fucking Dude Love was a heel. You know what I mean? Like, that is crazy to me that he was able to make the Dude Love character an effective heel. And I mean, the brilliance of him working in ECW and the whole gimmick being, you sons of bitches love it when I put my body on the line for you. And honestly, it amounts to nothing. Your love means nothing to me. So I'm not going to do anything hardcore anymore. And then he starts wrestling these super technical matches where he's doing rest holds and he won't do anything extreme. And the fans hate him for it. And it's this meta thing of like, but he's right. Like, he's punishing himself for you. And now you're mad that he doesn't want to do it anymore. Like, that's just utterly, utterly brilliant. Fucking so good.
And has there ever been another heel who's like so reckless and body on the line type stuff? Because, you know, there's a lot of Darby Allins and Shane McMahon will jump off whatever, but it's always a babyface who takes those crazy risks because that is endearing to an audience. Is there another heel that like punishes themselves that way other than Mick Foley?
Maybe Kevin Owens, if you consider what he does.
Even he only does that stuff as a face whenever he does crazy shit.
On the indies, he put himself as a punishment. I guess like Sabu at certain parts. A lot of the more extreme guys. I'm sure there's a bunch of death match motherfuckers. You know what I mean, and then that kind of shit. But Foley was just like fucking king of it. He was the heel in that King of the Ring match against the Undertaker, where he took the dive off his cage. We don't talk about it in that context anymore, but storyline wise, he was the bad guy, and we all became enamored with him because he took that bump. So I mean, fucking the dude's fucking great. He's unbelievable. Even his WCW stuff against Sting and Vader and all these guys, he's great heel. Great heel.
I'm glad Tyler brought up Scott Hall because I was between Scott Hall and the name I'm about to bring up, and I'm glad both are being talked about. Not Jeff Jarrett. Close.
That is the one question we should have asked Vince Russo. Why is he so in Jeff Jarrett? Did you push him to the moon for it in 2 different promotions? Three different promotions.
Yeah, I wonder what Jeff Jarrett has on Vince Russo.
Maybe they just really have fun when they hang out.
He really likes the sound of guitars being smashed.
There you go.
I think I'm going a little bit more classic. I think a heel that no one really talks about is Ted DiBiase.
Ooh.
I think no one really talks about him, and his heel work was so fucking good. And really taking that rich guy persona in a brand new fucking direction that we never saw. And he still has one of the best looking belts, in my opinion, ever. That $1 million belt is fucking gorgeous.
Yeah, I've always equated DiBiase to some, like, you brought up Flair versus Dusty Rhodes before, and it was like the working man against the guy with the private jet and the limousine and the diamonds and all that. And WWF essentially just copied Ric Flair, which is tough to get over when you're just copying a popular persona. And DiBiase pulled it off. I've long considered him like Flair without the wins, because it's similar work. Not as good on the mic, but similar kind of heat, similar kind of gimmick. And
but he still had great fucking mic work compared to a lot of fucking people. And he can still go in the ring as well.
Mic work is pretty close.
Who do you think's better at the "I'm better than you" gimmick, DiBiase or MJF?
DiBiase.
I'd have to still give it to DiBiase. He fucking cheated children out of money.
MJF flipped off a kid.
He said fuck that kid to a kid whose dad just passed away on Twitter. Also, I mean, look.
Pretty good heel work.
Time will tell on that one. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's what we'll go with.
Who's your second, Tyler?
But yeah, DiBiase is a great one. My second one was friend of the show, Scotty Flamingo Raven. Great heel in ECW and WCW. I thought he really made the U.S. title mean something before Goldberg took it off him. And the Flock, even though they were like mid-card, really mattered, at least in my opinion. And then, everything after that, he kind of floated in and out of doing good stuff, but some really great heel work in there.
We gotta get Raven back on.
I love that guy.
He's the best. I just hope you guys are ready for a lot of one-liners, and you want to talk about segues that don't exist.
Like, you see him on TV, and he's this like brooding kind of like in the shadows kind of lurking figure. And then you speak to him, and it's like talking to Groucho Marx.
I mean, Groucho was a great heel in his own day.
I view him like you see him as this brooding guy, and in person, he just wants to talk about nerd television shows the entire fucking time. I'm like, this is not what you should be talking about at all.
Yeah, you want an hour-long conversation about Lois and Clark, the new Superman adventures from the 90s?
Yeah.
Your guy. This was great. This was a great conversation about going bad as it were. I don't think that this dynamic will ever die. I just think that people will get more creative on how to generate heat. I think the key, like we talked about, is and we talked about in the Vince Russo conversation, just got to be based in reality as much as possible because you never run out of material that way. There's some people. Go ahead.
And that's exactly why I brought up Volkov and the Iron Sheik, because at that time everyone hated Russia and Iran during that time. Like everyone fucking hated those countries, and then you get a mouthpiece to a guy from Russia and a guy from Iran. Of course, it's gonna create heat.
I don't know if xenophobia is the best use of real life events to make people hate you, but
It's based on reality.
It's true. I've often played with the idea of making shirts that were like Hulkamania shirts, but it just said xenophobia running wild. I wonder if they would sell if we made that happen. I don't know. Something to think about. Something to think about also is that motherfuck WrestleMania is imminent, and so what else would we talk about next week other than WrestleMania as a fucking concept? I'm sure we'll have Annie back next week. We'll talk about the showcase of the motherfucking Immortals and the pitfalls and the triumphs and everything else in between. Where can they find you guys in the fucking meantime? I said a lot of fucks. I'm turning heel as we speak.
Josh?
At Josh Martin Comic and all the things. That's it. I have nothing going on. Oh, actually, I'll be in Vegas April 9th, I believe. Yeah, April 9th, Friday night, 10:30. I'll be opening for Pauly Shore at the downtown Grand Casino. After that, I have nothing.
You could find me at T Lemko, and I finally have something to promo. If anyone out there likes cards, basketball, football, wrestling, even Pokemon, if you like cards, check out Cards and Treasures, this new project I'm working on.
Love it. Find me personally at Chris_please, us at WrestleFetish on Instagram, at WrestleFpod on Twitter, at WrestleFetish Podcast on Facebook, patreon.com/WrestleFetish if you want all the extra goodies. And, we'll be there. In the meantime, stay horny for wrestling.